Hi, friends. Welcome again to another episode of Beyond the Clouds Edge to Edge Transformation. And this transformation is fairly complex where our roles, responsibilities change. The good news is there's so much change going on. It can be an opportunity to find the niche that you really belong to do the dance that you really want to dance. So here's Christel with us. I got to know her during the synopsis days at a sales conference, and we were all dancing. We know how to have fun in
Yeah.
the technology space. Christel, tell us about you. How did you end up doing the things you're doing and becoming the Christel you are today?
Okay. Thanks, Shankar. First, I appreciate really, you having me doing this interview with you. I've been watching Beyond the Clouds interview, and especially the last one you did with Martin. I was like just so impressed and how you are able to get the information from the people you interview and make it something useful for people like me and, your audience. So great job on that. I can't wait for the book though. So yeah, we met on the dance floor actually. So we have that in common, so our love of dancing. There's many analogy, but just to give you like the high level. So I'm from France. I'm from a small country, a small city in the Champagne region. So if you know your geography, you have Paris and you have Switzerland. I'm about halfway there. And the city is called Troyes, like un, deux, trois. And it spells Troyes,
I,
Troyes. So if you ever or anybody of your audience stop by France, go visit Troyes. It's a medieval town. There's great food, great drinks. So I would recommend an amazing cathedral to go visit. So that's so. And when I was 17, I went to Paris to study engineering. My dad was an engineer, so I followed his footsteps. And I did 3 years in Paris, first so the equivalent of a BS. Then I went to Brittany, which is the little sticky out bit on the west side of France. And I did another 3 years there where I got my master. And then my English was not great. I had the choice to go to England or Australia. And I picked England. I guess, somebody was watching over me because when I arrived to England, I actually was able to get a job and I met an amazing man who became my boyfriend. And I followed in the US, which has now been my husband for 27 years. So that was the story. I came to the US 1 week. And that 1 week, I had one interview every day. And the goal was to get a job. So when you're in the Bay Area, we are both engineers. Andy, my boyfriend at the time, who's my husband now, had a job already with a company called Quick Turn. I really wanted to work with Andy because we were working together in England and I really enjoyed working with my husband. But I didn't get the job. And I remember crying because it was like, but I got a job at Synopsys. And Synopsys was an amazing company to work for. So that was 97. I'm going to date myself a little bit. And we had, fun. I came as an application engineer. We were like a small group of very amazing individuals. It was the days, pre-kids. So we had fun. We were doing a lot of things together. And I discovered very early that I love being in front of the customers. So as an application engineer, I was the good guy or good girl who comes in, fix the issues, fix the problems, file for a bug, get R&D to fix it. And but I really enjoyed talking to customers and trying to convince them of the value of the technology that I was supporting at the time. So I decided I wanted to go to sales because I thought that was, the next level. And I was interested into, how I could bring the technologies that I was selling and supporting at the time to more customers. And the little story is that it took me 7 years to actually get to sales. I interviewed, 7 times, and each time the sales managers at Synopsys were telling me, Christel, doing a great job as application engineer, you're a woman, it's just that I've got all those great sales guys who have have achieved 110% or 150% of their quote. I actually need to go with them. I can't go with you. You're a technical person. And finally, I had one manager gave me a chance, and I'm thankful to him. His name is George. If he listens, hi, George. And George gave me a chance out of, all the people who I thought could have given me a chance. George was the one. And I moved to sales. So that was 2007, 2008. And I've never looked back. So I truly believe in sales and making my customers successful. So customer success is really like the one center for me. And we can talk more about that if you want, but that's basically, and so I did Synapses, I went 1 year in ANSYS. Cadence was also an amazing 7 years with Cadence, where I got to drive the business for their number one customer. And that was truly amazing. I learned so much at Cadence. And I've been with Arteris about 1.5 years, where I'm their EVP of sales and support.
I still remember how customer focused you were. And I remember the days when you went from the technical side to the business side to the sales side. I know you heard that multiple times. You're a woman, you're technical, just stay in applications. Do you think the gender mattered so much at that time that only men should be sales? What was the problem there?
So I think certainly in those days, there was no so much equality in the sexes. And I think it was, sales has always been a little bit of a boys' club. I think it is changing, and I'm a proof of it. Arteris gave me a chance. Charlie, our CEO, gave me a chance to run the sales team for Arteris, and it's going very well. But yeah, there is this thing. I truly believe that a mix of men and women, and I don't like to do stereotypes, because as a matter of fact, everybody sells differently, but a mix of people, if you're all the same way and you sell the same way, you don't get to touch and to be able to reach out to so many customers. So having a mix of, people who are maybe more technical, people who are more emotional intelligence, that type of thing is actually very, very important. So the EQ is something that, when I look at sales team, having the balance is actually very important. And, women in tech in general, this is something that I truly believe in. Once again, just to have a mix of people is a strength. And having just, one type of people is really, or one type of personality is not something I believe in.
One of the things I really admired about you was how natural you were on the dance floor. And we've talked about that in the past. How do you relate dance with EQ and with the ability to connect with people and sell? Did it make a difference in your life that you were into movement and relating on the dance floor?
Yeah, so this is a good analogy, because and I think you whispered that analogy to me, and I just love it, because it's like, we dance with customers. You have customers who are very willing to dance the way, we are dancing. Some of us are not going to be, just more frustrated or just more backup, or, cross their arms. So like reading the body language and being able to kind of mimic a little bit the person. So do the dance with them and build that muscle, muscle memory of being able to adapt to the people you sell to. So yeah, it's like the analogy of a dance is actually a very good one when you think of selling. I have to say something though, because the way I'm thinking, I talked about customer success, and one thing that has always been important for me and has always served me well, it's to, when you actually sell to a customer, sell to just a company, it's very important to understand what's important for them. So like when you dance, you're being led or you lead, but it's actually very, very important to let yourself as a salesperson being led, because they know what's the success and what they need to be successful. And once you become, I always say, when I'm at Arteris, I wear my customer's cap. When I'm at the customer, I wear my Arteris cap, because it's very, very important that they feel that the success of the company is what you want. It's not the success of Arteris will come with me making my customers successful. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Christel, you worked
Yes.
in many roles. You worked in England and you studied in France. You came to the US, went through the frustration of any new immigrant, which is getting validated, and you did amazing technical work. I remember so much so that everybody wanted you to stay technical.
Stay technical.
And now you've done all of it. Which part of the journey was the most exciting for you? Which part of the journey was most challenging for you? How would you say, or what was your career like?
So I think for me, and I think what's very important, it's always to be able to learn. So each time I've been in a role where I had some learning to do, that has served me well and also pushed me to get to the next level and what was going to be next in my career. You know, it's very important to know yourself and know what's important to you specifically. But certainly for me, the learning part is what's been very important. And then the very important things are teams, right? So if I look back, I look back fondly. I had at Synopsys, I was working on the Intel team, so I was the A manager for the Intel. That was an amazing team, so building a team which has the synergy. And then, of course, when I got to Cadence, working with Apple, it was like just the synergy we had was amazing. So when I look back at my career, if I look back at where I was the happiest, if I can say so, and the most challenges when I had something to learn and when I was able to build that team and that synergy of, making the people grow, which were working with me, because customer success and team building or team empowerment, making sure that we ask people in the Bay Area, especially, but in high tech in general, we ask people to work very, very hard, right? And, to be willing to put all those hours, sometimes I work at the weekend, often I work at the weekend actually, but even like you're an application engineer, you have to do a benchmark or you have to do a tape out. So having the feeling that your boss has your back is very, very important, and that they want your success, right? So I've noticed thousands times that if you empower the people who work for you, they'll step up and they'll deliver. If you just always question and always micromanage and look at, why did you do that, Shankar? Why didn't you do it like that? This is when I think at this point, the magic doesn't happen.
Very true. Very true that the synergy is so important. One of the things that I went through when I went from hardcore technical roles towards marketing, I never went into pure sales, but marketing biz dev, was I loved the fact that I could connect with people, but I felt a loss of control because when I was an engineer, I could hack it up and solve the problem. Did you feel that when you moved from a pure science or engineering role and customer facing role to pure sales role, there's that shift in dynamics, isn't it?
Yeah, there's shifts in dynamics at different levels. So certainly when you go from an individual contributor role to like a management role, that's like one step. And when I mentor, when I get people asking me questions, often people wonder, is it the right time for me to go to management? That's a big decision, because to be ready, and that's always what I tell people who ask me about, is it the right time for me to move to management? Because you need to be ready to put your success in your team's hand. And when you become a manager, it's not your work, direct work, which is going to make your success. It's like what your team, the success of your team becomes your success. So this is like the first step. And for example, with my new role at Arteris, I had to learn to be the EVP, not the salesperson anymore. I need to do everything I can to make my sales team successful. But I'm not the one selling so much. Maybe I sell to execs or I get involved when, there's a need for it. But it's like really empowering the team and understanding that your success comes from you making the team successful, not just making yourself successful.
Now, Arteris, I guess, is your first startup company, and you have huge responsibilities here.
Yes.
And It's so different selling when you're a large company like Cadence or Synopsys directly to the CEO or the CXOs in large business units at the Intels and the Apples. But at Arteris, your leverage is limited in the sense that you're not a huge player yet. How did it change the dynamics with customers, with the ecosystem, with partners?
Very
And
good.
how do you feel? Do you enjoy that part of it, the changing dynamics?
Yeah. So first, I need to correct you because we are not a startup anymore. The IPO was 2 years ago. So we are a public company and we're doing well. But you're totally right. You know, being Synopsys or being Cadence, you have this huge portfolio of technology to sell. There's always something. And I used to love that because it's like a puzzle. It's like a dance. You know, in the back of your mind, what you can sell, you know, the portfolio you have. I have my IPs, I have my synthesis, just like the test. And you go in, you listen, which is a skill which is so important. You listen to the customer and you understand where their pain points are. And once you have that, what happens, it's like you say, okay, yes, so if they need something to help them with time to market. Maybe I have something in the physical world that which can help them. So it's like this dance and this puzzle making. But to answer your question, so as Synopsys Cadence, you have this huge portfolio, and you go in. You can probably, especially if you have Libbu or Arteris as a CEO, you can probably get a meeting to any company in the Bay Area. Their Rolodex are amazing. And Anirudh and now soon Sassine are the same, right? So those two companies, you can get in easily. At Arteris, I'm lucky that we have an amazing Flex NOC technology. So our NOC has been around for many years, and when people want a network on a chip, they know that Arteris is the company you need to go to. So I've been a little bit spoiled because we have people who've used Flex NOC, let's say at Intel, and they do a startup and they say, oh, I know exactly, no question, what NOC I'm going to use. Let's just call Arteris. So it's been a little bit easy, but we have technology which are not maybe as mature as Flex NOC. And it's been a challenge to, just get in front of the customer, get the value proposition. We have an amazing marketing team which is helping us to deliver the right message and the right vision on our technology. And I can't tell you too much, but we're going to announce some new technology in 2024. I'm super excited as a salesperson. I'm super excited about it because that's going to be also changing how our customers are doing their SOC and how they can use our NOC and system automation solutions also.
And what I find interesting, Arteris has been one of those companies that is very nimble and continues to track and lead in technology. Of course, you have the horizontal platforms like NOC, but you also have tracked all the connectivity, AI, and the memories and all.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? How do you guys do that? You possibly cannot have the size of teams that big companies have, but you have that, somehow you made a very nimble culture.
That's also a big difference, right? If I think of my last job at Cadence, I had an army with me supporting that number one customer. So just it was actually made things easy because it was just like I would say that customer A needs a fix, and it's like the number one customer, it could get fixed in days, weeks. There's like now there's really a prioritization going on, and we do have partners that we work very closely with, and so we have like and it's also how much the customer wants to work with us also in some extent. If one day I become a customer of Synopsys or Cadence or Arteris, I can tell you that I would know exactly how to get the best out of those companies. We just focus a lot. We have a clear plan on what we want to achieve. When you have a big team, you don't always know what Paul and Fred and Bob are doing. There we actually are very, very focused on what we want to achieve and what we want to deliver. So when I talk about new technology, for 2024. We know what we need, and the execution is going to have to be there. We just need to be a little bit more focused, but also do that with agility, because we want to be agile and flexible, to be able to grow into those customer base we have. If you look at the top 10 biggest tech company, we are 7 of them are our customers. And I don't have an army being able to support all those customers in my application engineering team. So it's very, very important to prioritize and focus on making sure we have a technology which supports itself, and also focus on, once again, going back to what's going to be making the customer successful.
A lot of people assume that to be a good salesperson, you have to be a smooth talker, you have to sell used cars like they're brand new and all that.
Yeah.
But you said something different. You said they have to be good listeners. Can you tell us why being a good listener is important in the whole sales process, or in general, the customer support process?
Let me tell you something. Being a good listener is not only important in sales, it's important in any jobs and even in your personal life. I see the difference when I actually listen to my husband rather than telling him I need to do ABC, but I want to listen to his needs, or even the same with my kids, being a good listener. In sales, it's even more important, because and I used to do this little thing, if I don't talk. See, you broke the silence. Silence is uncomfortable. And people, if you can master that and just say, okay, instead of, some people are they blab. I could tell you trends of the industry or trends of the different culture I'm working with across I could probably go on for 2 hours talking without letting you say a word. But once you get into that frame of mind where you listen, people will tell you what's important for them. And then you can actually put a plan, a strategy, a sales strategy, which is going to help them with whatever they gave you. So when, reading a room and just understanding, who you need to listen to, and then let them talk. A good salesperson is not somebody who should have an ego bigger than the room and be the one talking the loudest in the room. It's actually a good salesperson is the one who is going to listen and let the people explain where their pain points are, being able to put a strategy to help that customer with those. So listening is so important.
Wow. This is something that I hope everybody listening understands, that being responsive to the customer, understanding their pain points is far more important than giving the sales pitches and making smooth talks. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, they have needs, and can you fulfill those needs becomes important. Wow. So question for you, Christel. I remember the days when we worked together in technical sales. I was more on the engineering side. Has your life changed with all the things you've gone through? Are you a different person than you were, say, 20, 30 years ago when you were, starry-eyed engineer to where you are today? Has your work changed who you are?
That's a very tricky question, Shankar. I've changed physically, but I try not to have changed the Christel that I was even, much earlier in my life. Because of course I've grown, what I know and how I do sales. Certainly Synopsys was key into making me the salesperson that I am. I worked with amazing salespeople. One of them is becoming the CEO very soon. But I really became the salesperson that I am with what Synopsys. So I've changed in that way. I've become more sure, I know how to negotiate. I've grown my skills, but the core, of Christel hasn't changed. Being truthful. I would never say one thing to one person and another thing of another person. So, not lying always, being true to the values which are important to me. That hasn't changed. The Christel, the core Christel is still the same. The skills and the learning that I've built on the top has changed. That's made me, being able to do what I'm doing with Arteris now.
when I was in Mexico, I learned this beautiful phrase called corazón de cristal, which means
Uh,
a heart of crystals, like a pure heart. I see that in you, the purity, the simplicity, and all that. So, what advice do you have for people who are really technical but have very good soft skills and want to go from engineering into the sales side or into the customer support side? And you also mentioned that it's not so simple for women.
First, like for the people who want to go from a technical to more management or like non-technical role, it's very important that you set goals for yourself. So, it's actually very appropriate because we're about to go into 2024. We have 2 weeks left in 2023. And, it's very important that you look back at the goals, what you want to achieve, in the next year. And once, if you decide that you do want to go into a non-technical role, if it's really what you feel that it's the right time to do that, go for it, but don't look back. The jump from technical to non-technical, for the longest time I was like, but I was so good. Like when I was an application engineer, I could make any like physical compiler, DC, prime time, those were like, and look, now I'm starting from scratch again, but like commit to the decision that you're going to make. If you decide to do it, just go for it. When we talked a little bit earlier, Shankar, I was telling you, you decide in the morning when you get up if you want to be happy or if you want to have a miserable day. It's like when you can decide you're going to be successful in your work today, or you are going to be thinking, this guy was so annoying, he didn't give me the approval that I wanted, but move forward, just like keep the positive attitude and just commit to it. And then the second part of the question you ask is about women. I want to say, just like things are tough. It's not easy to be a woman in technology. It's not easy to be a woman in sales, but we are damn good at it. So just believe in yourself, and you have my contacts. I'll be happy to talk to any woman in tech who is struggling. I have a passion for technology and for women in tech. So, any of those two, I'll be happy to talk to any of you if you want to reach out through Shankar or directly on LinkedIn. My last advice would be pick a model. There's a big thing, so we could do an interview around mentors and people who are behind you. Often people ask me, do you want to be my mentor? Or how do I find the mentor? It's important, but what's important is you have role models. Think of somebody like, you can think pie in the sky, Gandhi, or I don't know, somebody like amazing like that. But think like in the company you work at, think of, okay, that person or that girl, I really would like to do what she's doing, and use role models. So I always think, instead of having mentors, if you can be inspired, let yourself be inspired by a man or a woman who you think it's, that's who I want to become in 5 years. That's who I want to become in 10 years.
Thank you for mentioning that. And this year, I've been very fortunate that many of my role models agreed to be interviewed, and even my close friends. Honestly, that has been a very gratifying experience, because we won't be who we are without dozens of role models, dozens of supporters, people who trust us, believe in us, and help us to grow. And I truly like that, what you said. First thing in the morning, you get to decide whether you want to be happy or you want to be miserable. I want you to elaborate on that. I can understand the being happy part, but the miserable part, I know what you mean, but it's hard to digest sometimes,
So I'll give you an example that happened yesterday. So I wanted to get something for my team, and I sent an email to somebody in the finance team asking for something. And I got an answer back at 10 p.m. from that person telling me, no, Christel, you can't do that. And I was, damn it. It's just like, how do I get him to do what I want him to do? And this morning, I could have decided to go and be very bitter about it and just like be, negative about him not giving me something which I think was a great idea. Or I could say, okay, I'm going to move forward, start on a positive note, and think how I'm going to convince him to do what I want in a positive way, rather just being bitter because he had told me last night that I can't do what I wanted to do. So that's a specific example, but to elaborate back to a higher level, it's really seeing all the things which go wrong in your life. As a salesperson, I don't know what the procurement person on the other side has gone through. Maybe his wife has cancer. Maybe he just won, I don't know, 10K at the lottery and he's super happy. You don't know what's in people's mind. So it's like you just have to decide to just stay with seeing the positive and just stay in the moment. If I think of everything which is going wrong in my life, I could be miserable for days, actually. I lost my dad when I was 12 years old. I could be sad for the rest of my life with that. Or I can decide, that actually made me the person I am today. And moving forward, it's just like, there's always two sides to a situation. You can decide to do it positively, or you can decide to do it negatively.
Christel, when you started talking about the importance of, being in the moment, being mindful in a sales situation, I suddenly saw the meditative side of sales. I used to think that sales is a very stressful job. So I never went into the quotas and the deadlines, but I saw that sales can be a place where you can actually be grounded, be truly with the customer, truly with your own people. And thanks for sharing that. That's so important.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Because when a customer tells you no, I don't want to give you X, that amount of dollar that you want, you can decide it, damn it, I hate him. But you can also decide to, okay, let me understand why he doesn't, and let me explain, or, find ways on how I can get him to spend more or accept that terms. But being like calm is always so important.
I remember once when I was at Caden's and we went to a large customer in Japan. I was on the marketing side, and they said no to us and gave the business to the competitor. And I learned a little bit of Japanese, and I said, "Thank you very much. We understand we didn't satisfy your needs. I personally apologize, but thank you." And that is actually the Japanese way of doing things. They were so happy that I followed their way of doing things that they gave us 20% of the business. So what about the cultural aspect of selling or marketing? You can't sell the same way everywhere, right?
You have it spot on. You cannot sell to an American company the way you sell to a Chinese company or Japanese, Korean. And with Arteris, we have presence all around the world. It's like you need to look Chinese to the Chinese. You need to look Japanese to the Japanese. And that goes back to listening to people. You need to understand, and your example was very good with Japan. You need to understand what they think is respectful, how you want to work with them. I can't be a Christel working with Japan the same way I'm a Christel working with an American company. So understanding the culture is very important in sales. It's also very important in management. Once you become like a global leader, you really need to understand, because I can't drive or lead a team in India, for example, the same way that I would lead a team in Europe or in France. French people, we are like always complaining, it's just, so you need to be aware of those differences. And once again, just adapt yourself. It's all back to the listening, read the room, and just instead of just bringing the one person, just look at how they behave, and just look at how they do things, look at how they talk to you, as simple as how they write their emails, and mimic that. If somebody wants to say best regard to me, I'll say best regard. If they want to say tar, like in England, I'll say tar, or thanks. It's little things like that, but believe me, it makes a difference, because people pay attention. And people want to work with people and buy from people who look like them, right? So, of course, I don't look Japanese, but if I change my behavior, to actually behave a little bit like they are, that's huge help. And that works for every country. We've talked a lot about Japan, but that works with any country. Even in Europe, there's a lot of diversity. You don't talk to a German person the same way you talk to a Spanish person.
But I have to say, the French are the sweetest. We were in Paris recently.
Thank you.
Different styles, as you
Yeah.
said, different strokes for different folks. There's a belief today with all the Gen AI stuff going on that, oh, you don't need people. Machines can do it. Marketing, you can write fantastic things. ChatGPT can do the marketing. ChatGPT can do the sales pitch. Is there anything that AI cannot do today where we need humans in the process of supporting customers and sales? Even if, let's say, everything can be automated, what is the last thing that humans will be doing in that sphere, in your opinion?
When we look at the area of growth, if I go back to Arteris, AI and generative AI is like an area where we really see a lot of growth, right? So there's the automotive, we have several verticals, but AI and generative AI are very, very important. And AI, we say AI or even generative AI, but as a matter of fact, there's the training portion of AI and there's the inference, right? There's the usage of AI after. And we work with company like Tenstorrent, for example, which are more on the training, like the huge, data centers. And then you have the inference side, which is a whole different world. When you think of those, there are jobs which are going to be replaced by the machine. But when I arrived in the US, I didn't have a cell phone, right? And I was okay, right? And it's just like, once again, it's embracing the change. Change is a good thing. A lot of people think of change as scary. But change, if you embrace it, and once again, it's back to seeing the positive into the situation. So yeah, will there be jobs which are going to be disappearing? Yes, but there will always be a need for the human interaction. What you and I are doing right now, no machine could do. The way you interview me and you think of your next question and you think of, it could be, ChatGPT could interview me. It wouldn't have gone where we've gone today. ChatGPT is like version 5 next year. I truly believe that ChatGPT version 20, when I won't be there anymore, probably my grandkids will be there, won't be able to do that human interaction. Like the reading, just connecting the way we are connecting now, I don't believe any machine can do that.
Yeah, there's the story of robots playing ping pong with each other. For a while, it's fun, but would you want to have Olympics with ping pong playing with robots? We could talk all day long, as you said. Each of these topics are so big, we could spend a day on them. So, Christel, I really want to thank you. It's amazing to see how much you have grown, not just as a salesperson or a customer facing, which you already were, but to have seen different nuances, cultural nuances, work nuances, and amazing that you've embraced them at each step of the way. And yes, if people want to find you to learn, especially women in technology, women desiring to go into customer-facing professions like applications or sales, we will have them contact you. And to people out there, this is the reason I talk to people. I could be talking to robots, ChatGPT all day long. It's just not the same thing, trust me.
Yeah.
And that's where I have tremendous faith that we will have enough interesting things to do, because everyone I've talked to has said that what are the things that may go away and what are the new things that will emerge. But I want to find out from you if you have other things that you want to talk about, if there are other things where you feel connected to, please come forward. We would love to hear. I need to complete this book in the next few weeks, next few months, but there'll always be things to talk about. And Christel, could you continue to grow with that corazon de cristal, which is the purity of your heart? And please continue sharing. It's a joy to be reconnected in this form other than at conferences.
Yes, and we need to get back on the dance floor someday together.
Yes, maybe in Carmel.
Yeah, I'll come visit.